This is going to be the first episode of a series of podcast episodes I plan to do on my YouTube channel, and I will be uploading this audio elsewhere. So that's that. And this is going to be about my thoughts on paganism groups on Facebook, my experiences, and what I am and am not in terms of being a polytheist and technically a pagan, but I'm becoming more and more not okay with using that term for describing myself. And I'm going to start now enlisting what I'm not as a pagan and what I don't believe. I don't believe in magic the way that some pagans / polytheists do. Not really. I don't believe we can astro project or change our realities by the laws of attraction. I don't believe in the law of attraction. Not at all. Not one bit. And that's my perspective. That's my thought. But it's not something I believe in. I think astrology is fun, but it's just that. Fun, and we shouldn't believe in it 100% or anything like that, even though I know from a cultural standpoint it's very popular. I do believe in the gods, but I believe in it because of the god gene. I believe in them because of the god, what scientists call the god gene, which is the idea or hypothesis / theory, since it's made it that far, that humans had an evolutionary reason for believing in a god or gods, but they may have not had a reason to believe in a soul. And that's where I'm going to get into what I don't believe in. I don't believe in a soul. As stated before, there is the theory / former hypothesis of the god gene, wherein there's a biological evolutionary reason for why people believe in gods, wherein because of the harsh conditions of life many years ago, it made us need comfort, protection, and to feel like we have control over something. And that's where that same biological need is why I think some believe in the law of attraction, and why I think I don't really believe in the law of attraction, because I don't believe we can change reality. I think we need to have a set of what is true and what is not true, but that yet we should be skeptical of certain things and certain claims, and be suspicious if some people seem like they have an agenda or are going to benefit tremendously if people think a certain way, especially when it comes to groupthink. By no means am I an expert or a scientist or anything like that. It's just my observations I've made over the last 4 years, and reading a lot of books, articles, talking to a couple of neuroscientists, sitting in a few group chats with 2 biologists and 3 doctors, and man, was that a ride. But and participating in groups on Facebook that have a lot of scientists in them that have nothing to do with paganism, and I'll get to that in a second. And my own thoughts on being skeptical of people's claims about Norse mythology and what is true and what is not true. For example, if relativism is what we claim to believe, even if most pagans wouldn't be able to put a name to it, well, then that means that the idea that, say, what Marvel says about Thor and Loki being brothers is just as true as them not being brothers, and that's paradoxical. If there's no truth and it's all subjective, then who's to say your eyes aren't really blue or green or something? And it goes that far. It also goes into moral issues, like if everything's subjective, then certain things are okay. Like, I know this is going to get uploaded to YouTube, so I have to be careful. But say abuse or violence in some way, and that's an issue in its own right. But that skepticism of history that we should have should not be countered with romanticizing the past and making it what we wish today was. And what I mean by this is we want the Norse to have been extremely progressive in all things, even though we know they had slaves. There's no denying that. Even the god Thor himself, according to the myths, had slaves. Slavery was a thing that they did. We can't make it seem any other way. They had slaves. We know this. Not all men would have treated women well. Yes, they had laws, but that doesn't mean they were enforced or even followed in any way. And that doesn't tell us what they thought about gender roles. It doesn't, because we're not inside their head. We don't know what they thought about certain things. The only things we can kind of speculate on what they thought of certain things are like someone's thoughts about, say, language, because there is a stone that is about someone's complaints about how Old English is changing. But for some people, I know that they wish those kind of stones about language or arbitrary things like that were about their own culture, but they're not. And we shouldn't just project whatever we want onto it because we don't have answers. We should accept that we don't have answers and understand that we're not always going to get answers or find them in some way, and that even if we have answers, they may not be the answers we want to hear. And that's hard because as much as we talk about not wanting to be organized or constrained in paganism, our backgrounds, as various as they are, contribute to the way we think. And that comes with your brain wanting a structured system because that's all it knows. And forcing a structure onto someone else because that's all you know. The familiar to the brain is always preferable to the unknown. And that's a hard cycle. It's a it's a circleistic mindset that I know a lot of people in many different groups, not just paganism, not aware that they have. And that's understandable. I had that mindset too, and it took a long time to break out of it. Because the way we were raised contributes to it in a lot of subtle ways that we're not always conscious of and can't always be conscious of. But I'm going to add one last thing by saying that I do not, as I said, consider myself a pagan anymore. But at the same time, there are things that I don't believe in that I know are central to people's idea of paganism. And I know there are pagans who feel disgruntled by being called horrible names, and I've had terrible experiences just like I have. I've been called horrible names for being a Loki worshiper. I've been told that my points and opinions are invalid because I want to do research and I want to get my facts straight before I, tell my side. And my side is often more based off doing research, asking biologists questions, and taking many online courses than it is about my own experiences. Though I have had more worshipping experiences with Anubis and Set than I have had with the Norse gods, I don't think that disqualifies me from sharing my opinions on these topics. And what I will say is that I've had good experiences, but I've also had bad experiences of getting into arguments and being called names and other things just because I don't agree with the majority. And that's fine. I'm a Loki worshiper. I know I'm a part of a minority, and I would even make the argument that he's maybe one of the most hated gods in paganism. But that's where I'm going to end. But this is where I'm going to end this now, here, for now.